The new millennium was a massive turning point for the Disney Channel. Having primarily aired cartoons, the 1990s slowly saw the channel begin to integrate live-action programming into its lineups, signaling the new direction the channel was moving towards. While shows like Flash Forward and The Famous Jet Jackson opened the door for non-animated productions, Even Stevens kicked down the door and made a wonderful mess of the house. Airing from 2000 to 2003, Even Stevens followed the lives of older sister and perfectionist Ren Stevens and younger brother and all-around goofball, Louis Stevens. Adored by fans and critics alike, the comedy series ran for 65 episodes, receiving 24 various award nominations, and even getting a series send-off in the form of a channel-exclusive movie. With so many memorable moments, one of the true standouts was Season 2, Episode 21's Influenza the Musical. A 30-minute musical episode featuring the cast singing and dancing, it was the channel's first attempt at this type of production, and its success would lead to its other live-action shows following suit, and eventually inspiring one of the biggest worldwide sensations ever. But before musicals in high schools would take over the hearts and radios of the youth, it was just another perfect day in Sacramento, California for Disney's funniest family. It's time to look at Even Stevens' Influenza the Musical. At the time of Influenza airing, there had been 41 episodes of Even Stevens prior, so the need for new ideas was ever present. According to creator and writer Matt Dearborn, when you're in series television, at some point when you're scrambling to come up with episodes, somebody always says, well, let's do a musical episode, along with, let's do a black and white episode, let's do a time travel episode. There are certain television conventions. We just decided to do the musical episode. The plot was simple. Ren wakes up sick, but wants to go to school in order to keep her hopes of winning the perfect attendance award alive. Upon arriving, she forgets she has a science presentation due later that day. Meanwhile, Louis is doing everything in his power to escape his PE class's physical endurance test. Surprisingly, executive producer David Brookwell notes that Disney, the company whose movies were practically built off the backs of songs, had no interest in doing a musical. It really wasn't something that they envisioned being successful at all, but I think the idea was so radical, it was a great pitch, and we all felt confident that we could pull it off because we had some really great talent as far as writing the music and coming up with some great lyrics. With the idea approved, writing the songs would be the next task, and would come from an unexpected source, Jim Wise, better known as the actor who portrayed Louis's gym teacher, Coach Tugnut. What may seem like an unusual decision is anything but. Writing on Mad TV, Saturday Night Live, The Tonight Show, and a slew of Disney Channel shows, Wise had the perfect combination of comedic and musical chops to make these songs work. Despite that, Brookwell recalls, we were all biting our nails going, is this going to work or not? But when everyone started rehearsing and actually dancing, when we had it up on its feet, you could read the script and you could listen to the music, and that's one thing. But when the actors actually read the lines and rehearsing the dance as they're singing the songs, that's when you start going, this is really coming together. After weeks of filming, the episode was ready to air, and the final undertaking would be to enjoy the finished product. The episode begins with Ren writhing in bed, plagued with a nasty case of influenza. She insists to her mother she's well enough to go to school, motivated by the opportunity to add the perfect attendance award to her trophy case, but is forced to rest. In the other room, eternally irreverent scamp Lewis appears to be sick as well, though his illness is less than organic, using a megaphone to amplify faux sneezes and a heat pad on his forehead to try and make himself hot to the touch, in hopes of getting to stay home, thusly avoiding participating in his PE class's obstacle course test. This opening image of Lewis is hilarious, as he applies more effort into evading school than studying for it. The outlandish and creative lengths he's willing to go through to achieve his sneaky goals still feel grounded in reality to an extent. Every kid watching knows the feeling of trying to will themselves into being sick, the psychological tricks into forcing their skin to feel clammy, or attempting to sneeze, hoping to explode into a nasal symphony. And while the exercise often proved fruitless, Lewis, even in his own similar failure, gave continued hope to that childhood fantasy. He truly was a comedic idol for kids, carrying on the legacy of the youthful slacker due to the criminally underrated comic acting of one Shia LaBeouf. Mature beyond his years with his ability to emote and animate himself like a young Jim Carrey, but also capable of giving a heartfelt performance when needed, it's only the first time we see him in this episode, and he's already able to elicit laughs. Lewis's dad comes in to check on him and puts his hand on his head. Lewis asks, "Am I burning up?" And he replies, "I don't know. I'm just resting my hand while I look for something." Tearing back the blankets to find the hidden megaphone, screaming into it, "You're faking it." Lewis's dad was always my second favorite character behind Lewis. He could be that serious parental figure, but also just as silly as his son, depending on the situation. In this case, he plays the role of the no-nonsense father who yells at him to get dressed and off to school. Lewis collects his clothes in a sped-up, fast-motion scene, which was a frequent staple of the show, utilized to give a cartoonish feeling when accelerating mundane tasks. That gag is a testament to the creative team and how they're able to maximize their comedic touches, leaving no moment without even the smallest humorous offering for the audience. As Lewis walks out the door, the two casually say goodbye to each other, reminiscent of Looney Tunes' Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog. Ralph would try and steal sheep, and Sam would protect them, beating Ralph senseless in the process. But once the punch clock sounded, indicating the end of the workday, the two would become friendly again, recognizing the antagonistic aspect of their relationship is merely a result of their natural jobs as predator and guardian. So too, in the same way, do Lewis and his dad have this relationship. Lewis, the rambunctious child, trying to weasel himself out of scholastic obligations, and his dad, working to keep his son on the straight and narrow as best he can. The two have an understanding they'll butt heads on occasion, but still love each other at the end of the day. Ren, determined to maintain eligibility for perfect attendance, sneaks off to school, where Principal Wexler unexpectedly begins singing the morning announcements. It's an instant earworm. Wexler alerting the student population to the lost and found, where someone has somehow lost their pants, and reminding them of the physical endurance test, where we see Coach Tugnut applying grease on the climbing ropes. Wexler shows some serious dance moves too, boogieing down the hall before wrapping up the announcements. Talk about putting your best foot forward. This song makes a bold opening statement for the music that will be played throughout the episode, filled with funny lyrics and a variety of gags. And the cherry on top being Lewis sitting on a lawn chair like he's having a day at the beach. You can tell that this musical is going to be a fun time, and we're only one song in. Also of note is the pleasant revelation that's Principal Wexler's singing voice. He's legitimately good, carrying a natural swing that plays with the music, and I wouldn't object to hearing more from him. Ren leaves the office fully cognizant of the strangeness that's afoot before she bumps into Lewis and his friends, who are attempting to devise a way of getting out of Jim. When she asks how he's going to pull off this task, he says he always finds a way, which transitions into the next song, where Lewis and company brag about how he's faked sweat allergies and filled his ears with cottage cheese, all to get out of PE. The song, I Always Find a Way, has always been my favorite of the bunch, which is high praise when comparing it to the remaining songs. While the others are all great in their own right, this felt not just like another song, but an anthem for layabouts everywhere. The pride he exudes while singing how his desperate actions helped elude physical education is infectious. It also feels like the song that most closely captures the essence of a specific character, both lyrically and with its bouncing melody, which was by design. Composer John Coda remarks, "I wanted I Always Find a Way, in particular, to sound kind of like the theme song, just to give it that flavor, because I almost felt like the theme song fit Ren Stevens' personality, so I wanted to give that particular song the personality of the show." Everything involved makes this an undeniable winner, with a special treat at the end where a confident Lewis, still claiming he'll find a way, opens his locker and his PE teacher, Coach Tugnut, stuffed in the locker, sings "But Not Today" and hands him gym clothes. Interestingly, this is the only song that doesn't feature experienced singers. The other actors all had previous musical theater or dance experience, but Lewis, Twitty, and Tawny's actors, all admittedly, were novices in that regard. There are multiple instances of their singing being off-key, spotty harmonizing, but it all has zero impact on the enjoyment of this song. It's the most fun song of the entire episode, and it's admirable that they use their own voices rather than dubbing them with professionals. There's an absolute charm to hearing kids singing and sounding like actual kids. The scene also does contain the funniest moment that I can't decipher if it was intentional or not. Lewis is bragging about his proficiency at getting out of class and high-fives Twitty. And with Tawny sitting behind them, she high-fives herself with the most overexcited face ever plastered. I can't tell if she was supposed to appear as overenthusiastic as she ended up looking, but she sells it. And this song is just as contagious as the fake disease he's hoping to conjure up. Afterwards, Ren is reminded by her friends that her science presentation on the lunar landing is due by 6th period, and the science medal and half her grade are dependent on it. Her friends break into the next tune, giving the side characters their own time to shine. The song, titled "What's the Matter with Ren," has the pair of Ren's confidants pondering what's wrong with her and if she's losing her perfect touch. Gary Leroy Gray, who plays Ren's friend Nelson, his voice was so bad, Jim Wise, again, the actor who plays Coach Tugnut, actually dubbed the singing voice for him, saying, "He couldn't sing at all, so I had to sing. So his voice, the voice coming out of him, is me. How I figured he would sound if he were able to sing." And I can't believe Wise was able to get his voice to make that sound. The song has a calm tone, as the two watch Ren bungle around looking helpless, and halfway through, the tempo is kicked up with the interruption of Larry Beale, Ren's academic enemy, with the single, most dynamic performance, singing about how she's cracking under the pressure of perfection and how it's his time to shine. This is inarguably the best performance of the episode. Larry's actor Ty Hodges proves within 30 seconds he is a true triple threat. He has a great voice, lethal dance moves, and despite him being the bad guy, shows me enough that he really should have had a chance at his own show. Not a spin-off as Larry, but his own show. He has true star quality. and when he hits and holds that note when he screams Ren, it feels like the note that launched 1,000 Disney Channel musicals. The song even ends by combining the two versions of the songs, and the mix sounds great. Later, Ren and Lewis are both in the computer lab, hoping they'll find solutions to their respective issues. The only fact Ren learns is that the lunar landing happened in 1969, and Lewis, searching for reasons to get out of gym, gets frustrated that excuses.com is recommending he say he has couch potato ankles, but only because he's used that excuse twice already. Just another funny little touch credited to the writing team. With dueling screams of frustration, that brings us to the next song, Sixth Period, which Jim Wise notes was supposed to be this intense, overwrought, over-the-top dramatic song like it was Les Miserables. And it is quite stressful, feeling like a countdown, with each singing how they're dreading their next class. Ren's actress, Christy Carlson Romano, has a great voice, and the background dancer's choreography, which has been great throughout, is especially entertaining here. Even the Stevens parents make an appearance, still at home, saying they need to find Ren and hustle, prompting a disco ball to lower from the ceiling as they bust into a disco dance, which connects to the next line of the song, where the principal walks through the school's hallway, with the students taking up the hallway with their dancing, as he shouts, "Wow, these halls get so crowded," and the lights from the disco ball in the parents' room shine into the school's hallway. The purposeful inconsistency is comedic genius. It's also the favorite song Wise wrote for the episode. I liked the weight, heavy-handed seriousness, just how everybody has a line here and a line there. It was such an ensemble thing. And I think even at the end, they kind of checkerboard out the screen, so you see everyone's face at once in their own place. That was a fun one to write, because it was kind of out of my wheelhouse too, because I had written a lot of pop kind of stuff, but this was kind of serious, more tense than anything else, just because it was different from what I'd done. The time of reckoning, Sixth Period, has finally arrived, and we get to see the much anticipated obstacle course, which includes running through tires, complete with chattering teeth toys, which is funny that they're a hurdle to be feared, but from inherent cartoon knowledge, your brain somehow recognizes that these red and white devils are an actual believable obstruction. The rest of the test includes jumping rope, running on a treadmill, and a climbing rope. And just when they think they may be able to complete the test, Coach Tugnut reveals the final portion is to survive 15 seconds in the Cage of Doom, alongside an angry gorilla. But in typical Even Stevens fashion, it's an obvious gorilla suit. But it's so out of the blue, it's hilarious. And the fact that this gorilla is seen as a real animal, compared to what we see, it's probably the biggest laugh in the whole episode. Coach Tugnut launches into the song Master of the Gym, holding up a stick with a cutout piece of soccer ball, imitating the Phantom of the Opera. He antagonizes the kids to move faster, as he gleefully sabotages their efforts, tripping them with basketballs, and cranking up the speed on the treadmill. Finally, the kids reach their breaking point, and Lewis leads a mutiny as they put the coach through his own course, all the dangerous obstacles included. It's awesome that Lewis overcame his test and put the coach in his place, and it sets a high expectation for how Ren's going to deal with her predicament. We cut to Ren's science class, where Larry has invented a machine for the science fair that turns liver into chocolate. It's impressive enough to win the competition, but will depend on how Ren's presentation goes. Ren stands up to address the class, armed with the only fact she knows, that the lunar landing occurred in 1969. And this leads to probably the most well-known song in the entire episode, We Went to the Moon, about how the lunar landing occurred in 1969. Not 1968, but a year later. Romano has the best pure singing voice of anyone in the cast, and it plays a large part in what makes this song so memorable. despite her repeating the phrase, "We went to the moon in 1969" over and over. Her confidence starts to grow from how well her presentation flows, giving a smug smirk and a cocky head nod as her classmates support her with backup vocals and dancing. Ren's knowledge is all filler though, to the point of mentioning how the design of the rocket was really neat, and we get a glimpse of Lewis as the moon's face, and his eager expression is to die for. Unexpectedly, Wise credits the inspiration for this song to the Beatles. I completely ripped off the feel of the Beatles song Penny Lane for "We Went to the Moon." That's what that was based on. As Ren wraps up, Larry sits in frustrated disbelief that her presentation would even be considered worthy of an award. His complaint is validated when Ren receives a failing grade, prompting Larry to mock her with a delightfully malevolent song, "Ren Got an F," using the same tune as "We Went to the Moon," with the other students holding big red Fs, chanting "Ren got an F" over and over until she wakes up in bed, still sick, having dreamt the entire school day. Her family tries to make her feel better for not getting the award by breaking into song, much to Ren's horror, causing her to scream, waking up in bed again. This time, she's actually healthy and finally ready to go to school, until she discovers she slept through the day, but able to accept she won't be winning the Perfect Attendance Award. The episode ends with Lewis announcing he's bringing her hot chicken soup, by way of song of course, causing Ren to scream again, not knowing if she's still stuck in a musical or not. Influenza the musical proved to be a hit immediately upon release. It not only became a favorite among Even Stevens fans, but had a direct impact on other shows on the channel. Even Stevens itself would feature more music-centric themed episodes, and Disney would request musical episodes for more of their shows, including That's So Raven, and in 2006, the channel released the worldwide sensation High School Musical and its sequel the following year. Executive producer David Brookwell recalls, "I just remember Gary Marsh, president of the Disney Channel, coming up to me after High School Musical was a huge success. I remember seeing him and I congratulated him on the success of High School Musical. And he said, 'You know, we wouldn't have done that if you guys hadn't done that musical episode of Even Stevens. That gave us the confidence that musicals could work.' And that was a really great compliment." The episode that started out as another idea for the show to cross off has carved out an honorable place for itself in the legacy of the Disney Channel, proving that live-action comedy would be a large part of the future for the channel going forward, and that musicals could not only be successful, but extremely popular. In the end, it was a gamble for Disney, the writers, the cast, and the show overall, taking on a challenge that very easily could have ended up as a blight for everyone involved. But much like the heroes here sing, they always find a way.